I'm Susan, and today I want to show you how to create a tile bracelet and actually string it. This is really much simpler than it looks, and you don't have to have any artistic ability or talent. This is all done with little tiny cutters, so there's no caning involved. It's just simple clay and layering. So let's get started because you're going to want to. I'm starting out with this package of Craft Smart clay cutters. They're really cute. They've got like a summery theme. I thought I would do kind of a watery background since I want to create some tiles. And what I'm starting with is some basic blues that I've already made into little pieces. These I've run off on a number 3 on the pasta machine. And I'm just going to randomly stack them. Maybe I'll even stack them in half-size pieces so that I get more to my stack. So I have a thicker stack that way. And I don't really want this to be intentional. I want this to look kind of like it's the sea. Now I have added glitter to my clay because I can. And if you like glitter in your clay, add it. Now I do use scrapbooking glitter, so if I do caning with this, it's fine. So you can use the thicker glitter, but just remember you can't cane with it. It'll mess up your canes. And I'm just going to add a little bit of pearl here because I kind of want to make that look like a twist. Now, since I have this beautiful little sandwich that you're saying, what the heck are you doing? So am I. I am just going to cut it in half because I probably only need half, and I'm going to save this for something else right now. But what I want to do is just twist this up, roll it up a little, mush it up, so that I get this nice wavy pattern when either I roll it out or run it through the pasta machine. Either way will work with this technique. You don't have to have a pasta machine to use cutters. You could even just have used blobs of clay and put them together. But I want this to have a background for my tiles that's watery looking. And I want the blues to be a little uniform and not uniform. You know how water has colors that run through it uniformly in some spots and other spots it's kind of random. I'm looking for that. And the best way to create that is just by slicing this up. See, we're already getting that kind of random watery look, but I have too much white. And the only way to fix that is reduce. Because I feel that the white is just overpowering, and I only put a little bit of white, as you can see in here. It's just a tiny bit of white. But you can see how strong that white becomes, so that's why I used just a teeny bit. But that's okay, we're not going to worry about it. And I'm twisting it just because I want that to blend in a stripy way. And even the end I am twisting. I want you to see that. Now I will just keep reducing this until I get it to the point that I like it. This still feels too much white. So I'm going to continue this and I will come back when I get it reduced more that I like the way it looks. So I'm back and I've reduced it 2 more times and I'm kind of liking this wavy feel. Now all I'm going to do is cut this in 2/3, well maybe even more than that. And you can see I'm just randomly cutting. Maybe we'll do it into 6s. Because our tiles are going to be this way, I'm going to do either bracelet or earring tiles. So I just am looking for a strip that I can cut tiles out of. And all I'm going to do is start to roll this out with my roller. Now you don't have to use a pasta machine, you can just continue to use a roller. But I will roll this out and then fold it over once again and roll it out again. So I get this more consistent sheet. But you can see how I've got this beautiful wavy texture already growing on that looks a lot like water. And that's what I'm looking for in the back of my tiles. So let me finish making this into a sheet and get some other sheets so that we can cut out with our cutters. And I will be back. Now I've twisted and reduced that clay a little bit more and rolled it out a few times on the pasta machine, so I got this beautiful watery effect. Now there's several ways you can make your tiles. You can create your tiles that I have my little turtle cutter, that the turtles are going randomly from one tile to the next, or you can create it where you center the turtle in a tile or maybe put them at an angle. So say these were going to be earrings, and you can just cut your tile out that way. Let me get a pencil eraser. And so it just depends on how you want to do this, but I find it easier if you're going to make it centered that you plan out your tile ahead, where if you're going to do it random, just do the whole sheet and cut it and see what happens. Personally, I just like to cut it and see what happens because I'm not a good planner. But for the people that do like to plan, you can plan it out this way and create your tiles this way. Now you see my tile has wobbled from cutting on it, so it may be easier to cut the tile after you've cut all your design out, and then, so like this, if you had your turtle here and you cut it out and you fill it all in, you may be better off than to just pre-cut the tile like I did here because it wobbled all about. Now you can also just take your clay blade and push it back. So don't feel like you're stuck if you did that already. There's ways to save things. You're not always stuck. Now I will add my greens to this, and I'm going to start out with, these are all rolled out on a number 3. I'm going to start out with my darker green and my lighter green, and I'm just going to play with this until I get what I get. And I'm feeling like I need to take a straw and cut out some of these little spots on the turtle, or maybe I'll just overlay some little dots. Let me just play with this and see what I get. So I've added my turtles in to make my little sea feature. Now I want to add backs on the turtles, and I want this to be more dimensional. So I don't have a cutter that does that. What I've done is I've made an impression on my lighter color, and I am just basically going to cut out the back of the turtle just by avoiding the shapes of the fins, the feet, and the head. And that will create exactly what I need for the top of the turtle. Now this is done on a number 3 because I want it to be more dimensional. You could do it thinner if you like, but I really want it more dimensional, and I will be spreading that down with a knitting needle as I go. So let me add all of my turtle shells and I will be back. Now that I've added that extra layer for the shell, you can either take a toothpick and make a little trim around the edge. Here's what I did with a knitting needle, and just create this nice little texture. It's just a way to add a little bit more dimension, and by adding layers to your cutters, you really make them look more real and more interesting. When you keep them flat, they're pretty, but when you make them thicker and you add more texture, they look more like embroidery. And if you don't have a cutter for a certain shape or a certain part you want, just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be dimensional. It'll make it look so much better, and you can see just by adding that little design around the turtle how much difference that makes. And texture to the back of the turtle shells. I am using my trusty pen. This is a pen that's retractable, so I'm just bringing the point back so it's just past the tip there so that you get the second little dot, and that's what gives me, let me bring this up close, this little design in the back of the shell. And it looks like I spent a whole lot more time than I did, but it adds a lot more dimension. I've added some little dots to the little legs and the head. I've added eyeballs because I just want to give it as much detail as I possibly can. That is what really separates the handmade look from the manufactured look, is all the little details and the handmade designs. And you can see how that completely changes from one plain turtle to the one with the design in it. And I'll probably add a few rhinestones to these. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to add. So I'm back, and I've already cut a few tiles and I've waved the edges because I just think that with the sea look, I like the waves. Up to you. Now, you could cut the tiles individually on a piece of paper if you wanted to bake them on paper. I prefer to bake them on my tile. It's easier to bake them and cut them. They distort a whole lot less. I've added a few rhinestones here just to switch it up, and you can see this better when I move it. You can see the sparkles. You use liquid clay when you add your rhinestones. That's all you need. So I am going to basically just cut up these tiles, which basically you can center this however you want. Take your blade and cut around it. And of course it's going to do that for the camera. And basically just cut around it. Now I prefer to make a template out of clear plastic You would not see that on screen, so I'm just using a paper one because it was just what I had that would show up. But that's pretty much all there is to your tiles, and then I will bake them for 10 to 15 minutes so that they harden, and then I can add a backing to them. I'm beginning with 5 tiles. They're about 1 inch wide. They can be as long as you want, doesn't matter. To get myself a 7.5 inch bracelet, I am using 8mm crystals in the middle. I'm stringing this one a little differently than the tile bracelet that I've had in the previous video with the tiny cutters. This one is the same if you wanted to string it like this as the tile necklace, but I wanted to do something a little different. And this time we're going to put the crystals down, almost making them like a hinge, and it'll add a lot more sparkle. Now for this technique, you only need shorter pieces of thread, so maybe 1 yard long. Whatever scraps you have left, that's the easiest to use. And you're going to be beading these separately. Now most people would leave these turtles all going in one direction. You know I can't do that. They naturally swim up and down in different directions, so I need to switch those up because to me, that's a nicer, more interesting type of a look. And besides, you look at the bracelet. You want those turtles to face you sometimes too. So to start this, I have my size 11 seed beads, and this part is random. Every bead is going to be different wherever you put your hole, and we're going to start going up through the hole in the back. Now, I like to drill my holes at a diagonal, and the reason is it gives you a lot more strength and a lot more to hold on to. If you drill it just at the edge here, it's a lot more likely that your bead might crack or break, and there's no way to repair that. So if you drill it that it's deeper in the back and a little bit closer up in the front, you get this nice diagonal, and it gives you a lot more to grip onto. So we're starting out with the first bead, and we're going through the top of the back. And like I said, this is great to use just all the little scraps of thread that you have. Now, the big part here is to decide how many beads you need to get to the crystal. So the center of the crystal, it's an experiment, sort of like the other tile necklace. And once you find that number, it's really easy, but it depends how wide your ledge is on the side, how far you've drilled your bead in, and it's pretty easy of just basically trial and error for the first bead, and after that you're kind of sailing through this. And how far do you want that crystal? I want that crystal right up next to it like that. And to get that crystal up next to it like that, I think I need 1 less bead. So I think 3 beads would be ideal. And once you have that number, like I said, it's very easy. So I'm basically then going to add my 4 crystals and then 3 seed beads and go back down through this bottom hole. I think I need to move these out of your way. So I have them going diagonally just down that side. Now I have not tied a knot or anything. I'm just holding that other piece of thread with my hand, and I'm going to add, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 seed beads because I drilled that hole on a diagonal. It is not necessarily going to meet it the same way on the top as it is on the bottom. And once again, it's just trial and error of playing with this. And actually 5 or 6 beads for me. And it's just measuring. 5 beads would be ideal. So I've got 6 on there. I'll go back through that one, get it off, and now I'm just going to go back up through these 4 seed beads. And I'm going to attach the other tile. And I will take 3 more seed beads and go through the top on this tile, and then 5 in the back. See how it's starting to form like a hinge. And then I'm going to go down the center and add the same ones on the bottom. And you get this beautiful little crystal hinge that will hold this all together. Now I'm doing 3 again, and then 5 in the back. Oops. Now remember, I'm still holding that tail in my hand. Some people like to use a bead clamp or a little clip or something, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just so used to holding it that it doesn't even faze me. And this is just such a small little piece, it's only going to take a few minutes to attach each of these. And now on the back, I'm just going to add my 5 beads. And just go back through everything, reinforcing it. Whoops, as I drop the beads, trying to show you. And this will start to tighten up. So you can see when I pull it. When I come up close, you can see when I pull it how you get this nice little hinge that bends like a book. And that will make your bracelet flow so much better, and you can see all the sparkle you get. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through all of my beads, and then we will knot it. And that's pretty much all I do in between all the pieces. Now I've gone through that multiple times, and I am just going to tie a knot and reinforce it. And sometimes I will still go through it another time, just because I feel like you can't make this too reinforced. Makes me always feel happy to not think my pieces are going to fall apart. So I will knot that off, and then I will give it one more time, at least around this, what I call an infinity loop, because if you look at it sideways, it looks like an infinity. So I just keep going through there and giving it a few more passes, and then tie it one more time before I cut it. Now you don't have to do all those extra passes. I do it just because I like it to be highly reinforced. And sometimes I'll just do like a half hitch knot as I'm going through here. So when you try to pull my pieces apart, you have to cut them. They don't just pull apart really easy because I go through them so many times. But that is all you're doing, is creating this beautiful little attachment, and it's like a hinge. So when you get the bracelet together, it's all that. So I'm going to put these other 3 pieces together and come back and show you how I put the clasps on, because it's just repeating the same step. So I've got all the tiles attached, and now I'm just going to add the clasp. I always add the button or marguerite or whatever I'm using part of the clasp first, because it's easier to make the loop of how I go around that after that. So I've already added the 4 beads at the end, and I'm just going to go back up through the middle of them, because that is where I'm going to add my marguerite bead. Now my marguerite bead is just simply a lentil bead that I've formed into a marguerite. I have a separate video on that. I will link it below. And I'm just going to go up through the middle of these beads here. And then I'm going to add a few beads so that this will have some space to move up and down. Like 3 beads should be good. And that will give it some play, so that if it's too tight next to it, there won't be anything for the clasp to go around and continue to hold it. And that will leave plenty of space. So let me bring this up to the camera. So you can see I have plenty of space there that a loop will be able to wrap around and hold it. If you have it too close to the beads, there won't be any room, and it just will be awkward to put on. And I'm going to just put some crystals in the middle as a centerpiece for this marguerite, and go back through and add 3 more of my size 11s. And now I'm going to go back down and around, and I'm going to come back through to add 2 more crystals. So I can do that without showing you. It's kind of obvious once you've seen this. Let me pull this a little tight. There we go. So it will just have this look to it where it's got the crystals in the middle and the sides going down. I've finished that piece of the clasp and I want you to see how I've finished it up close. You've basically got your seed beads at the end there with your crystals inside. You could use crystal seed beads, anything inside your marguerite. I just happen to have some crystals sitting on my table, so they worked. And I've just got it finished off the same on the other side. Now make sure you really reinforce this quite well. This will get most of the strain on the bracelet is the clasp, so always be careful to put lots of thread in there and really tie it tight. And you can see how I've got the rest of the bracelet. We're coming right along. So now I will start the crystals on this end, the same crystals like we put in the middle, and then we'll work on the clasp. Now to create the clasp, I have the same 4 beads on the end, but instead of going up in the center, I'm going to go up 1 bead. I'm going to then create a loop that goes up and around these 2 beads, and that is what is going to clasp onto our marguerite on this end. So it's basically, once again, trial and error, and you've just got to load up your thread with a bunch of beads, kind of guess what you can the best. Now with a bracelet, you don't have as much leeway as you do with a necklace. A necklace, you could have it loose and it would be fine. The weight of the necklace in the front will hold it down. A bracelet will unlatch. So you have to have it exactly right. Don't try to say, well, it's close enough. If it's a little large, if it's not a snug fit like a button, it'll just come undone. So unfortunately, you have to play with this more. And now I think I have too many beads on there, but I'm going to take a few off. And let's see, I'm going to take 4 off. You never really know till you start to put this together. Now I go through that back bead and create my loop. Sometimes I get lucky and this fits, and other times it's a back and forth for 15 or 20 minutes. So if you're spending a lot of time on this, you're not alone. Now, all I do is go back over this bead and try to latch it. Now I make sure I hold this really tight so that there's not any give on it, and I want to make sure that the bracelet won't come undone. And let me see if I push it through. Yeah, that's pretty close. Make sure one more time, because if you don't get it right now, it's never going to be right, and you have to completely undo this whole piece. But it's pretty snug, and it's kind of hard to get through with my left hand, so that's perfect. And that will give me my perfect latch. Now, all I have to do is keep going through to reinforce it, and then I will come back up on this side and we will start to peyote it. Now, I've gone through one more time to reinforce it, and to go back, you don't have to go back all through the other things. You can just go right through these 2 beads that you skipped, because you want to reinforce those too. And now I'm going to go up through the first bead. Sorry, I'm working in the air to keep it close to the camera, and it's a bit of a challenge. Now I'm going to add 3 size 15 seed beads. You can see how tiny these are. That's why I have to be really close to the camera. And I'm just going to go through the next bead. I'm going to skip a bead, go through a bead. So basically it creates this beautiful little picot. So you get 3 little beads where you skipped a bead, and I will do it 3 more times and come back so you can see what that looks like. Now I've added all the little picots, which are the little 3 size 15s, and I'm going up. I've gone back up through all my other beads, and I've come back up through the first 2 15s. So I've gone through the top 2 15s, and I'm in that middle picot, and I'm going to just attach to the other middle picot, and this is a little hard to show you. Oh. Let's see, if I go through the first one, maybe you'll see it better. So I'm going to make like a little bridge going through one little point to the next point. So I've gone through the first one, which was the first 2 beads, And now I'm going to add 3 more size 15 seed beads, and I'm going to go back through to the top of the other point. And I will continue to do this all the way around, and it will attach those little points so they don't go up and down. They just have more of like a lacy look. And when I do the third one, you'll really start to see it better. So you're just going from point to point with 3 little size 15s. And you can see it much better there, how it starts to attach these little points and becomes one solid piece. So I will continue that around and knot off, and we're done with the bracelet. And here's the finished bracelet, and you can see how cute it came out with the turtles. And here you can see the latch and how it works so simply on the bracelet, and just the turtles going totally around the wrist. It's hard to get this in screen close up, but I want you to see how much sparkle you get from having really nice cut crystals. And this is why you want to have nice crystals side by side. You don't want the cuts to be uneven, and you don't want the holes to be uneven, because you really would see it in something like this. And here you can see the pink version of it, basically just using the flower set, so you get a completely different look using the same flower marguerite and just matching crystal beads. You get up a little bit closer so you can see the tiles, and these have like a little bit of embroidery feel to them because I've layered up some of the cuts and I've added a few crystals to the flower centers. And this is the seahorse bracelet using the exact same set of cutters that under the sea set. And you could do shells, you could do all sorts of things. There was a lot of cutters in that set. I just used these 2 cutters and I was really excited to see what I could get from them. And you can see up close the little bubbles that I used some rhinestones, and I also put rhinestones in the seahorses just to give them a little bit more depth. This was from the same set. I wanted to show you these little earrings that I created just using the little fish. So you can create lots of things just from one set. I could probably use this set for 10 different videos. So if you wanted to see more, let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that, and happy claying. Thanks for watching.